What does the Lord of the Rings and physical therapy and healthcare in general, what do those two things have in common? We're going to unpack that today on the PTN Ice Daily Show. Before I start, I'm just going to say generally, we try to keep this PG so you can listen in the car with the kids, helping grandma around the house, in the clinic with patients. Today, there might be some swear words. So if that offends you or you're not able to listen right now, then go ahead, pause me right now, turn me off, and then tune in later when you can listen. So let's start with the story of Treebeard. If you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, bear with me. I promise I will get through this metaphor without getting too nerdy about it. So, in the Lord of the Rings, the main characters make their journey to destroy this ring and kill the bad guy. And along the way, they find themselves in this forest, and they find in this forest there's actually a race of living trees, giant trees, 50 feet tall. These massive, living, sentient trees called Ints, and their leader is named Treebeard. And the main characters think, wow, there are these giant people who are really strong, who could really help turn the tables in this battle. And they ask the main character, they ask Treebeard, they say, why aren't you helping us out? And Treebeard says, well, I have no reason to, right? I'm just kind of waiting things out. We like being solitary here in this forest, and we're kind of just hanging out with our trees and our tree friends, and the affairs of the rest of the world are really not our business. And they ask him, they say, well, whose side are you on? And Treebeard stops and he says, side. I'm on no one's side. And the main characters ask, why not? And he said, well, I'm on no one's side because no one is on my side. And I think that's a really apt metaphor for kind of how physical therapists in 2025 view this battle between insurance and cash and government regulation, that we're kind of just sitting on the fence and we're hoping this issue solves itself and we don't have to get involved. But as Treebeard learns when he escorts the main characters out of his forest and says, good luck with your war, we'll be here if you need us. And he comes across that half of his forest has been burned to the ground by the bad characters. They have used his trees, which are his friends and family, is lumber for the war machine, right? To make swords and shields and that sort of stuff. And in that moment, he has to realize I have to take a side. I have to become an active participant in this because our survival depends upon it. And I think that's a really apt metaphor for physical therapy of we are on people's sides right now. Namely, we're on our patient's side and we're on our own side as far as making sure our staff and our colleagues are taken care of. But we're kind of just sitting and waiting and hoping that someone else fixes this massive problem for us. And what we need to realize is that health insurance companies and insurance adjusters and all the stuff related to the current way that the American healthcare system operates is not on our side. We need to recognize that these insurance companies provide no value. They provide no service. They are a middleman, right? They are, if you're a religious person, if you're a Bible person, they are the money changers that we were warned about, right? They have their hands in our pockets and in our patients' pockets, and they're happy to take money from both sides. And really, all they are doing is controlling the access to the healthcare that we provide, right? The people who wake up every day and go to work and they say, hey, what brings you in? Let me help you fix what ails you. The people actually providing the service, the people actually doing the work, yet who get a fraction of the payment, yet who have to jump through these paperwork loopholes to get that fractionized payment. And that these folks are never on our side and they never will be on our side. Do you know the average profit per patient that an insurance company makes in America? It's $1,400 a year. And that doesn't seem like a lot until you realize by law, every American has to have health insurance. And so when you take $1,400 and you multiply by 330 million, you begin to recognize why 4 out of the 10 richest companies on the planet are now health insurance companies, companies that make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars a year in revenue. And that if those companies just resign themselves to make 100 less dollars per year per patient across the whole year, that would mean hundreds of thousands, if not millions of more dollars for healthcare providers. That would be the money to actually pay ourselves a living wage instead of the average salary of $65,000 a year that physical therapists have been paid since before I was a physical therapist, since 10 to 15 years ago. That would mean money for equipment to better load people, money to transform our clinics to allow us to access more patients and provide more care to more people and higher quality care. We need to recognize that will never, ever, ever, ever happen. They will never yield on that. And that is the problem. We do need to admit that there are limitations to every practice setting and every payment method. But at the end of the day, as we talk about in our brick by brick course, payment is the patient's problem. Although we have a part in helping them figure that out because they are tethered to the health insurance system just like we are. We also need to recognize this is the only industry in the country that operates this way. You do not go to a restaurant and order dinner and then leave and wait for the restaurant to bill your restaurant insurance company for your meal. You do not go to buy a car or lease a car and have to wait for the dealership to get pre-certified to sell you that car, or for them to get certified and authorized to sell you that car. You give them the money, and then the auto insurance company only gives them a fraction of what was promised. Yet, that is exactly what happens every single minute of every single day in the healthcare system to healthcare providers. Because we've allowed these middlemen to put their hands in our pockets, we're forced to accept a no-win scenario, a scenario where we have to accept payments and restrictions that put a lot of restrictions on our practice as far as how much time we can spend with somebody, with how much money we can make, or that we have to convince somebody who, by law, has to pay for health insurance to also then pay us more cash out of pocket for our services. That is a difficult scenario to be in, and it's no wonder that we're all so frustrated, right? Both of those models have restrictions, they have barriers, and we both, no matter if we're taking insurance, if we're taking cash, or a little bit of both, all of us have a grind in front of us, and we need to talk about the best way to address that. I'm going to take a little break and stop and introduce myself. If you don't know me, my name is Alan. I have the pleasure of being our Chief Operating Officer here at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. It is Leadership Thursday, which means it is also Gut Check Thursday. Gut Check Thursday this week is 5 rounds for time, 30 ab mat sit-ups, 20 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, and then a 15-calorie fan bike for guys and a 12-calorie fan bike for ladies after each round. Should take you somewhere between 15 to maybe 20 minutes. I did it yesterday afternoon. It took me 16:48, I believe, so just kind of a nice body weight cardio grinder. If you're interested in learning more about what we're talking about here today on Leadership Thursdays, we have a class for you, Brick by Brick, our practice management course. We teach you how to create a sustainable, modern, technologically driven practice. Or if you have already started and you're not sure you have taken the right steps, we help you make those corrections to take your practice off the ground. Our next class starts next Tuesday, January 14th. So let's get back to it. Let's talk about what we're doing. It's important for us to not lose sight of what we're up against. When we fight each other, the only person that wins is the health insurance company. We need to stop getting caught up with cash-based gurus on social media telling us we can quit our job and begin seeing 7 patients a month and make 7 figures, right? That's never happened to anybody. It never will happen to anybody. We need to stop arguing with each other about the fact that cash-based insurance may or may not limit access to care for a lot of our patients. We need to not lose focus by getting tripped up about what we are doing with our patients. Is it skilled? Is it billable? When we contemplate not billing Grandma Doris for a full 60-minute session because she used the bathroom for 2 minutes, again, all of those scenarios, patients lose, providers lose, insurance companies win. Insurance companies always win when we are divided amongst ourselves, whether that's us as physical therapists, whether that's physical therapists and other professionals. When we fight each other, the only group that wins is the insurance company. And I promise you, they love to see that happen. They love to see you underbill yourself because of what somebody else told you, which may or may not be true. They love to see you go out of network, so you're no longer submitting claims. We'll talk about why that's actually a bit of a problem here in a second. And we need to recognize, again, It's us versus them, not us versus each other or other healthcare providers. That insurance companies are directly impacting the success of every single practice, no matter your setting or your payment method. And that it's up to us as the leaders, whether you are the owner, the clinic director, the manager, or just a person that gives a damn, to find a way that is sustainable for yourself and your team, and then hammer that system until it doesn't work anymore. Find a way to pivot, and then continue on. We do not owe anybody an explanation. Remember, we're on no one's side because no one is on our side, at least as regards to operating our own practice. In war, a two-pronged approach is always better than one. If you don't think that's true, go back and read a little bit of history and see how that worked out for a man named Adolf Hitler in World War II. It turns out fighting a world war on two fronts isn't a great way to have success, and that we need to recognize we win when we work together. An opponent cannot defend against multiple prongs of an attack. When I was in the Army, we used to do things called rock drills. We would have rocks on the sand and we would practice the amount of vehicles in our convoy, and we would move the rocks around and rehearse what we would do if a particular truck in a particular order in the convoy was attacked by gunfire or an improvised explosive device or something like that. And we would say, okay, truck 3 got hit. Here's what truck 1, 2, and 4 are going to do, so on and so forth. I promise you, what we never practiced was a rock drill where more than one truck was hit, where 2 trucks were hit, 3 trucks were hit, or 4 trucks were hit. Why? Because there's no defense against that. And we need to recognize the best way to win is that if we truly work together and chip away at these insurance companies in a death by 1,000 cuts type of approach. Because there is something you may or may not know called the medical loss ratio, the MLR. It is federal law that healthcare insurance companies have to spend 80% of their premium revenue on healthcare claims. So they must spend this money. Now, how can we maximize? We need to look at a two-pronged approach. How can we maximize the amount of money they spend on claims while simultaneously reducing the revenue they receive from premiums? It's easy. It's insurance and cash-based providers working together, again, in a death by 1,000 cuts approach. Like I said earlier, if everybody switches to be a cash-based therapist right now, the insurance company wins. Why? Well, all claims will stop. And the insurance company can easily say, hey, we're in compliance with the 80-20 rule. We have no claims to pay. Therefore, 100% of our revenue is ours to keep. We're in compliance with spending 80% or more of our revenue on claims because our claims are $0. And so the idea that we all flip a switch tomorrow and become cash-based providers, again, that's a scenario where the insurance company wins. The inverse is also true. If every single American has to pay premium revenue, if we don't do anything to chip away at that, if we don't do anything to make our population significantly healthier, they're going to continue to need to pay really high premiums because they are a higher risk patient. The path forward is for both of us to work together. That if nothing changes, folks are still going to have to pay that health insurance premium. But if they can downgrade their plan and reduce how much they pay every month on that premium while less claims are coming in, the insurance company slowly loses. I promise it won't be an overnight victory, but it will be this slow grind where we bleed these money changers to death. And the path to victory looks like continuing to force these folks to deal with that medical loss ratio while subtly increasing the amount of claims that come from things like emergencies, people that got hit by a car and do need to go to the hospital, while also making people healthier and reducing the amount of premium that people pay. Because the average American household pays $25,000 a year to a health insurance company, primarily because we consume so much healthcare because we are so sick as a country. So if we can get people healthier in physical therapy, they won't need as much healthcare. There will be less claims, yes, but also less premium money. We will bleed the health insurance companies and strangulate them once and for all. As a profession for over 100 years now, it's safe to say that we have been eating shit in a really bad way. We have fought physicians for autonomy just to practice on our own with literally not needing to be in the same building as them. We have fought surgeons on surgical protocols to be able to do what we think is best for rehab. And we have fought each other as rehab providers. We have fought with chiropractors and occupational therapists and acupuncturists about who and who cannot manipulate, thrust manipulate, mobilize, dry needle, cup, whatever. We have been losing because we are all fighting each other. And I think this year, people, both providers and patients, are finally starting to realize we have been fighting each other and we should have been fighting the insurance company all along. And that it's time for these insurance companies to eat some shit for a change. It's time for us to work together to recognize we are allowed to work with people on maintenance and fitness to get them healthier so they spend less premiums, so that premium revenue goes down, while also making sure that when justified, we are billing as much as we are legally and ethically allowed to, right? The two-pronged approach to bleed these insurance companies dry. We cannot wait for the government to just fix this. We need to do it ourselves. And how we do that is we start working together. If you're an insurance-based provider and you have somebody who could benefit from the services of a cash-based physical therapist, refer to them. If you're a cash-based physical therapist and you know someone simply cannot afford to see you at the frequency that you think they need, make sure you know a really good insurance-based physical therapist in town to refer to, right? The more we refer to each other, the more we keep our patients away from the greater healthcare system, the less premiums they will need to spend, the more claims will still come in from visits that are necessary. And again, we will slowly drain the revenue out of these companies, and we will make it so that these are not the richest, most powerful companies on the planet anymore. We need to be smart, we need to be strategic, and most of all, we need to be united. The end of that section of Lord of the Rings ends with the Ents going to war, right? They join the war and they swing their arms and they kill 50 people at a time, and it's glorious. It's time for us to go to war. I hope this is helpful. Hope you have an awesome Thursday. PTNice.com is where everything lives. Have a great day. Have fun with Gut Check Thursday. Bye, everybody.